Hi guys, Jay here. In the last videos, I shared my story of the childhood dream and how I get into design university. In this video, I want to share my 4 years of the learning experience in Coventry University. The very first semester was about practicing fundamentals and markers sketch. And since I've got some basic skills, I passed smoothly. The next semester, we started to do some design projects, a facelift, interior design, and an exterior design project. After the first project, when other classmates paint up their work, I find out that everyone was so good. The good ideas, sketches, and the presentation skills. From that time on, I started to work really hard, being competitive and trying to catch up. Basically, every day I would go to the library with my classmates, find a quiet corner, get some big tables, and start sketching. Often, we all sketched until 1 in the morning. It was really fun, the kind of fun that I wanted to improve, I wanted to be better. On the way home, I usually bought a takeaway. The lifestyle is not that very healthy, and slowly I started to gain weight, of course. Although I took IELTS test before, I found that my English communication was not good enough, especially for daily use. I wanted to improve it, so I rented a house with my classmates and friends who speak English, so that I needed to communicate with them in English on a daily basis. Go shopping, chatting, or playing games. Oh, it was so much fun when we played GTA and Forza together. Great, I miss them so much now. During the third semester, I got criticized by my professor for my visual communication, which is crucial for expressing ideas clearly. He said he couldn't read my phone. I didn't think in 3D. After that, I really started to dig in and on how to describe shape and forms and study metal reflection. I think professional critiques are always meaningful, whether it is a positive feedback or criticism. Ultimately, it really depends on how you react and reflect. During this semester, it was also my happiest and most confident time. We did a very passionate project, worked 15 hours a day, went to Geneva Motor Show, visited Germany, the Mercedes factory, museum, Porsche museum. It was awesome. And at last, after working really hard, I passed my second year with the highest grade in my class. The summer vacation came, but I didn't want to lose up. I remember I put a lot of pressure on myself because for the third year, it would get really competitive. We basically had to look for an internship, and there were very few opportunities. I needed to update my portfolio and keep improving, especially my 3D skills. That's when I first got into Blender. It was actually an accident. At the time, I was watching YouTube videos about computer hardwares, some really nerdy stuff, and I found out that they used a 3D software called Blender, a BMW M1 thing, as a benchmark to compare different hardwares. I thought it looks really good, I started to dig in this software, find out it can actually do a lot of fun things like mountains and spaceship. The light and color in some of the render just looks really good. I wanted to learn about this software, thinking maybe I can use it for making environments in my thesis project. September came way too soon, and after saying goodbyes to my family and friends, I went back to the foreign country. In October, the first opportunity came. Rolls-Royce Bespoke reached out to our school, and we needed to upload our portfolio in a week. And one day after Monday's morning class, a few of my friends were talking about an email they received from Rolls-Royce. I got super nervous and checked my inbox too. Luckily, I also got it. It turns out after reviewing our portfolios, they would give us 5 selected students a test project brief and would come to our school in 10 days to review the project and interview with us. This was my very first competitive test, and for 10 days I locked myself in my tiny room from morning to evening. Got only a few hours of sleep. Super stressful. 10 days later, we prepared the suit. 2 senior designers came and interviewed us. It was a nice experience. They were really kind and asked me a lot of questions. They also offered us a ride in their Ghost black badge. It was magical. After the interview, there was no news for some time, and we went back to our normal studies. In the following week, suddenly one day, the professor told us that the Land Rover would come to choose interns. He asked us to put portfolios in the classroom next door. The tension started again. We waited anxiously. After 30 minutes, the professor came in and called 3 people's name. 2 were the students who were chosen by Rolls-Royce to do the test project before, and my name too. My head went blank for a few seconds. He said they would interview us in 10 minutes and select interns right away. It took me a few seconds to react, to be honest. When I walked into the interview room, 3 gentlemen looked at me with smiles, and they introduced themselves, 2 exterior and 1 interior chief. After I presented my portfolio, they discussed a bit and later on decided to take the other 2 students. The interior chief handed me a card and asked for my portfolio, but he said there's no guarantee. I got quite upset at the time and teared up on the way home, but this is actually really normal. This is our industry. I believe if you work really hard, there must be a perfect opportunity in the future waiting for you. There's no need to rush, just take your time. I got totally surprised by an email from Land Rover on Sunday of that week. I got it. 6 months internship in interior design, and it would start in the coming year. In the following week, Rolls-Royce came back and they got disappointed after knowing Land Rover took us 3. The 3rd year in university was very challenging. The first semester, we had an opportunity to choose a non-car design brief. Design a maintenance vessel for offshore wind farms in the Netherlands. I felt, especially for car people, might find this kind of project boring, I guess. I don't know what do you guys think? There was also another challenge. Like each industry has its own workflow. The automotive field used Photoshop, Autodesk Alias, VRED, while the boat field used Rhino for modeling and Keyshots for rendering, a more product design approach. That means besides learning about boat design, we also needed to learn 3D modeling and rendering software. At that time, there was a voice in my head saying to me, why not? Let's try it. Later on, I talked to my roommate Alfred and my classmates Ollie, who would go to Land Rover with me. Find that it seems we all wanted to give it a try, despite the fear of the unknown. Now that I think about it, I felt very fortunate to take part in, because I've learned so much through this project. In the first few weeks of the project, I was criticized by my professor for running out of time on my presentation, no in-depth content, not relevant and unprofessional. I then decided to challenge myself to really manage my time and work. I made my weekly plan of researching and sketching and used every Sunday for making PowerPoint, write down the script, time myself, and practice presentation. In the following weeks, my presentations were getting better and my professor started to recognize me, communicate with me a lot, pushing the project forward. And I also liked him a lot. Presentation skill is super important. It is a process of expressing and communicating your design, a skills designers use every day in a professional environment. I usually sort out my logic first, then think about how to tell a story, sell your ideas using layout, graphic, and minimal writings. Let me know in the comment section down below if you guys are interested to know more about this. A few weeks later, our senior students came to show us their work, and professor introduced some internship opportunities. They presented the finished design and renderings. At that time, I was not sure about their final images. Was it caused by the software? I thought. Of course, nowadays, I have seen a lot of masterpieces using Keyshot, and later on, I began to understand the reason why it did not look good was because those students used way too much sample materials in the material library. Anyway, that was how I felt at that time. I decided to try Blender, a decision that was actually really crazy. When I told everyone about it, they thought I was crazy. No one knew about this software. No one wanted to go with me to learn this software. There was no Blender study group in the school. Basically, I had to find my own learning resource and plan time to learn. It was quite tough. I made my daily learning plan, wake up at 5 a.m. every morning, do project research, sketch, and spend 5 hours each day to learn Blender. When my classmates and professors saw my final presentation, it was, I think, quite convincing. I just thought the software was really good. I guess it was the feeling of the light and color. I will show some here, but it was still immature and amateur. This was the first shot. I guess that was my personalities. I wanted to do things in my own way, even until now. I'm open to learn the good stuff and integrate into my workflow. I'm sure a lot of us designers are like this. Everyone has their own way of working. And for those who are learning too, the stuff I said, they might not always be right. You have to use your own understanding and be creative with it. Find your own ways of doing things. It was the following April, the first day of the internship. I got so nervous and curious at the same time. My friend Ollie took me to work. There was a reception in the front of the car park where we received a name tag, and then we took a short shuttle bus to office building. I saw an Asian friend who also came in to sign in. I thought maybe he was an intern too. After a while, a gentleman came over. He was very kind, smiled at us at all time, and we shook hands. Then he led us through the gates, and we walking along the corridor. After walking through security gates, we entered the design studio. The smell of the clay wafted towards us. There were lots of people. Everyone looked so busy, come and go with their stuff. The room was so big, it felt like we went into another world. There were so many full-size models. We were super excited. My manager took me to the interior design team. There was a big welcome screen on everyone's desk, and designers were very focused on their sketches. During the first week, I was very nervous all the time. Still, I presented my mood board confidently in the weekly meeting and was appreciated by the creative director. In the end of the week, the Asian colleague, he drew 4 themes in the first week, 4 very impressive renderings. I was shocked. I only had 1 render. I felt desperate at that time. Later on, I find out he is an experienced designer. I learned a lot from him. The way he works, the way he sketches, the angles. I had no ideas about those kind of things. Volumes, shadings, depth, and perspective of the interior, not to mention the design. One day, I presented my sketch to my chief. He said, "I couldn't understand the surface, and your color is depressing. It is really a mess. I seriously don't know what you are doing." Then he left. Believe me, that did not feel good. I went back to my seat, began to think. Now there is a standard. We need to improve it, right? I started to search on the internet, watching tutorials, trying to understand the color and light. I was fascinated about the knowledge of this in those Disney and Pixar animation. And it completely changed my understanding and sketching style. I'm really grateful for this feedback. The direct comment clearly pointed out my shortcomings and made me figure out how to improve it to become a better designer. Sometimes my boss would take me to the clay models and walk me through the theme design, every volumes and line quality, and go through mood boards with me. What works, what doesn't, what is premium, and what is good taste. During the same period, we got temporarily switched seats, and I sat next to a strategy director who actually became one of the most important mentors during my internship. My manager introduced me to him. He took us on a more conceptual project, taught me a lot of knowledge about design thinkings. We would spend 10 minutes talking every morning. I was super motivated every day. He guided me to see many problems, see where the future is headed, and find out the meaning of being a designer. For me, there are so many problems in the world right now, in the society, in the environment, the environmental problems, from the problems of the whole generation to the pain points of users when using a product. As a designer, I want to solve those problems for people, bring them a better life. After a few months of hard work and help from my manager, my theme design got selected to make into a full-size foam model. When I finished my internship, my boss said to me, "Jude, you are quite different from other designers. You are very good at talking about your design. Will you come back and continue to talk about British weather with us? I said, yes, of course, and was really grateful for the whole experience. That was the end of a 6-month internship. What an experience. The last year of the university was the hardest year. It started with drawing doodles and research, which should be actually fun times. But because after my internship, my standards got raised so high, I put so much pressure on myself. Basically got depressed looking at some of my doodles, thinking this could not be the design I'm gonna to get to find a job. So depressed. During this project, the exterior scene was decided by the end of the year, but the interior scene got delayed. I was just always felt that it was not good. It was not good enough. The final design was decided at the beginning of the April, which was dangerously close to the graduation, which is in the mid-May. After the design was finalized, the modeling phases, the environment building, all got so much easier, much less stressed. In the very end, I posted the project on Instagram and Behance. It got successfully reposted by several platforms and recognized by many professional designers. A few weeks later, I received an offer from Land Rover. Many other companies were also interested in my project. Also, my previous manager at Neo really liked my thesis project and said that was the reason he hired me. Maybe I will make a separate video to talk about my thesis project. I believe all hard work won't be for nothing. The opportunities will always be there waiting for you in the future. I hope my experience can help those who are learning. I wish the best for you guys, and I will continue making videos. Stay tuned and stay safe. See you in the next one.